The fist came without warning, knuckles cut through stale air, aimed straight at Bruce Lee's jaw. No bow, no touch of gloves, just raw intention wrapped in 205 pounds of Special Forces muscle. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting pale shadows across the matted floor. The Sacramento gym smelled of rubber and old sweat. Midnight had turned the world outside silent, but inside, violence bloomed. Mike Callahan moved like a man trained to end fights before they started, 6'1", shoulders broad enough to fill doorways. His fist rocketed forward with the kind of speed that came from battlefield necessity, not tournament points. Bruce shifted his weight. The punch whistled past his cheek, close enough to feel the heat of Mike's knuckles. The mat absorbed their footfalls as Mike pressed forward, cutting angles, herding Bruce toward the wall. No hesitation. No respect for reputation. This wasn't sport. Mike's eyes held the flat certainty of a man who'd seen combat. His second punch came faster than the first, hooking toward Bruce's ribs, then a third. Each strike designed to destroy, not to score. Dan Lee stood frozen against the far wall. Two stone-faced military instructors flanked him, arms crossed, and then Mike stopped talking with his fists and lunged for Bruce's legs. The phone rang at 9. Dan Lee pressed the receiver to his ear, hearing traffic noise bleeding through from Bruce's end. A pay phone. The metallic click of coins dropping preceded Bruce's voice. "Got a call today," Bruce said. "Military guy. Special Forces instructor named Mike Callahan." Dan's fingers tightened on the receiver. "And he thinks martial arts are just performance, sport for tournaments." Bruce's tone stayed level, but something underneath it shifted. "Says military combatives are the real thing, wants to prove it." The hum of evening traffic filled the pause. Dan exhaled slowly. "What did you tell him?" "Midnight, Sacramento gym, private." A truck horn blared on Bruce's end. "He's bringing witnesses, 2 more instructors." Dan's jaw clenched. 3 trained military killers. "Bruce, I need you there too," Bruce continued, calm as still water. "Just as witness." Nothing more. The word witness carried weight Dan didn't like. Witnesses testified after something happened, something permanent. "This guy serious?" Dan asked. "Very." Bruce's breathing steadied. "He wants to settle a philosophy with fists." Dan stared at the wall clock. 3 hours until midnight. 3 hours until Bruce walked into something that felt less like a challenge and more like an ambush designed to prove a point no conversation could settle. The gym door slammed shut. Metal against metal, the echo swallowed by bare walls. Mike Callahan entered first, 6'1", 205 pounds compressed into tactical efficiency. Behind him, 2 military instructors moved like shadows, stone-faced men whose eyes scanned the room with battlefield precision. They fanned wide, witnesses. Dan Lee stood near the far wall, his shoulders tense. Bruce remained centered on the mat, weight distributed evenly, arms loose at his sides. The fluorescent lights above hummed a steady mechanical drone. Mike stopped 10 feet away. His jaw worked once before he spoke. "Martial arts are sport." His voice carried the flat certainty of doctrine. "Military combatives are for killing. Big difference." The words hung between them like a challenge already thrown. Bruce's eyes narrowed, not in anger, but focus sharpening to a blade's edge. He let the silence stretch, then breathe. "I agree there's a difference," Bruce said quietly, his voice cut through the hum. "But you're wrong about what it is." Mike's hands curled into fists. The 2 instructors shifted their weight. Dan Lee held his breath. The real question wasn't who would win, it was what truth would survive the next 5 minutes. Mike rolled his shoulders, cartilage popped in his neck, 3 distinct cracks that echoed off bare walls. The sound carried weight, authority. "Then let's find out." His voice dropped lower, flatter. "Military rules. Everything legal except eye gouges and death strikes." Bruce nodded once, a sharp dip of the chin, nothing wasted. Dan Lee moved to the wall, his back pressing against cold concrete. His breath came shallow. The 2 military instructors crossed their arms in perfect synchrony, stone faces revealing nothing. But their eyes tracked every micro-adjustment, every shift of weight. The fluorescent lights hummed above. That electrical buzz filled the space between heartbeats. Silence thickened like humidity before a storm. Mike stepped forward, one boot, then another. The mat compressed under 205 pounds of coiled muscle. Bruce remained centered, weight distributed, hands loose at his sides. Neither blinked. The distance between them shrank, 10 feet, 8, 6. Dan's fingers curled against the wall. One of the instructors leaned his head forward an inch. Mike's jaw set, his pupils dilated. Bruce's breathing slowed to something primal, something ancient, 4 feet. The air itself seemed to hold its breath, waiting for the first man to move, and then Mike's weight shifted onto his laid leg. Mike launched, no warning, no wind-up. He dropped his center of gravity and drove forward like a linebacker, hands grasping for Bruce's thighs. The collision came fast. Bruce's back slammed against the mat with a sound like a car door shutting. Hard, final. Mike didn't pause. He scrambled upward, knees digging into Bruce's hips, locking them flat. 205 pounds settled like concrete. Bruce's arms came up to shield his face. Mike's elbow dropped once, twice. Calculated strikes hammering toward the guard. Each impact tested defenses. Each movement surgical. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, indifferent. Dan Lee's fingers curled into fists against the wall. The two military instructors remained motionless, stone faces cracked by the faintest nods. They recognized this. Dominant position, ground control. The textbook unfolding in real time. Mike shifted his weight, trapping Bruce's left arm with his shin. Another elbow arced downward. Bruce twisted his head. The strike grazed his temple. Sweat gleamed on both men. The mat absorbed every grunt, every breath. This was not sparring. This was war distilled, survival compressed into seconds. Then Bruce's body went completely slack. His eyes, what were they seeing? Bruce's forearms snap up, covering his skull. The mat compresses beneath them, rough texture biting into skin. Mike's weight drives down, 205 pounds of controlled fury pinning bone against rubber. An elbow glances off Bruce's wrist. The impact sends voltage up his arm. Another strike lands, then another. The fluorescent lights burn overhead, casting harsh shadows across the combat. Mike's breath comes in measured bursts, tactical and patient. Sweat drips from his jaw, splashing onto Bruce's temple. The smell of exertion fills the space between them. Dan Lee's knuckles fade to white against the wall. His chest barely moves. Imagine watching your friend crushed beneath trained lethality, helpless to intervene. The two military instructors shift forward. Their boots scrape concrete. One tilts his head, reading the angles, calculating how many seconds remain before surrender or unconsciousness. Then, stillness. Bruce stops resisting. His arms lower, slowly, deliberately, his breathing. It slows, deep, controlled. The frantic energy drains from his frame like water finding its level. His eyes open, not unfocused, not distant, sharp. They fix on something no one else can see. Some invisible geometry beyond the ceiling, beyond Mike's weight, beyond the pain radiating through compressed ribs. Few could understand what occupied his mind in that frozen instant. Bruce's hips exploded upward. The bridge came fast, precise. Mike's weight shifted, just an inch. That was enough. Bruce's left arm threaded through the gap between Mike's planted elbow and ribcage, snaking around the joint with surgical timing. His right hand locked onto his own wrist. The geometry clicked into place. Mike felt it, the trap closing. He drove his weight down harder, 205 pounds of muscle trying to crush the technique before it matured. Too late. Bruce's body became a fulcrum, his hips twisted, the angle tightened. Pain lanced through Mike's elbow, white hot. Ligaments stretched past their design. He pulled back, the lock followed. He tried to rotate. Bruce's grip adjusted instantly, reading the escape before Mike finished the thought. The joint screamed. Mike's free hand slapped the mat. 3 rapid taps, sharp cracks against worn rubber. Bruce released, instantly. Mike rolled away, cradling his arm. Sweat dripped from his jaw onto the mat, dark spots spreading across faded blue. His chest heaved. The two military instructors uncrossed their arms. Dan Lee straightened against the wall. Bruce sat up slowly, breathing steady. Mike stared at him, confusion and something else flickering behind his eyes. Then his mouth opened, and what came out would change everything. Mike sat up, chest heaving, sweat darkened the mat beneath him. What was that? Not a question, a demand. Bruce extended his hand, palm open, a joint lock from judo, adapted for no-gi application. Mike stared at the hand. At the man attached to it, 205 pounds of special forces training, and he'd been dismantled like a rifle on cleaning day. He gripped Bruce's wrist, the same wrist that had just controlled his entire body, and let himself be pulled upright. "We don't train that," Bruce's grip remained steady, "because you train for battlefields with weapons and teammates." He released Mike's hand. "I train assuming I'm alone and unarmed." The fluorescent lights hummed above them. Mike flexed his elbow, testing the joint. No permanent damage, just precision, surgical control, the kind that didn't exist in his curriculum. Different scenarios. Mike's voice came quieter now. Different solutions. Across the gym, one of the military instructors shifted his weight. The movement made no sound, but Mike caught it in his peripheral vision. Recognition. The same realization crystallizing in three minds simultaneously. Mike turned back to Bruce, his jaw set, his shoulders squared. "My unit needs this." The words hung between them like a blade suspended midair. Mike's jaw worked silently. His eyes, shifted, not broken, recalibrated, were training different scenarios. Bruce nodded once. "Neither is wrong, just different." The admission hung between them like a truce signed in sweat. Mike's fist opened, closed. "Teach my guys this." His voice carried no begging, only command sharpened by humility. Military needs to evolve too. Bruce stepped back, rolled his shoulders loose. "When can you bring them?" 2 weeks passed. Then 4, the Sacramento gym became a laboratory. Bruce demonstrated angles on mats that smelled of old rubber and determination. Mike translated each principle into tactical language his instructors understood. Arm drags became weapon hand controls. Hip throws morphed into building corner takedowns. Dan Lee watched from the shadows as stone-faced soldiers began moving differently. Smaller circles, tighter economy, less wasted aggression. The curriculum grew like muscle memory, organic, tested, refined through repetition. By month 3, Mike's notebook bulged with diagrams. Bruce's hands bore fresh bruises from demonstrating full speed. They barely spoke anymore. Didn't need to. Then Mike arrived alone one November evening, his face pale beneath fluorescent hum. "They know." His words landed flat. "Command wants names, wants to shut this down before it spreads, but someone else already knew too much." Mike sat across from 3 colonels, polished oak desk, the smell of stale coffee and leather chairs. One colonel tapped a pen against his folder. "You lost to a civilian martial artist." Mike's jaw tightened. "Yes, sir." Then he showed me something. The pen stopped. "We train one scenario, weapons, teams, battlefield context." Mike leaned forward. "He trains another, alone, unarmed, total adaptability." His voice dropped. "That wisdom. That's what modern warriors need." Silence stretched. The senior colonel nodded once. "Write it up." Mike did. The notebook became doctrine. Within 18 months, Bruce's principles filtered through Fort Bragg, then Coronado, then every special forces pipeline. Arm drags became weapon retention. Hip throws became room-clearing protocols. The language changed, but the adaptability remained. Few could imagine that one midnight fight in Sacramento would ripple across decades. By 2010, every military combative's manual incorporated adaptive martial principles. Instructors taught fluidity alongside aggression. Soldiers learned to think, not just react. Bruce Lee never wore a uniform. But his philosophy armed generations. Mike kept the original notebook until he died. On the first page, faded ink read, October 1966. "The night I learned the difference between being right and being complete."